And I see it's two participants. So we are here, and you're I think on your intro, right? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, just welcome to everybody who is doing this right now. I'm Danielle. I'm the team librarian at the LA Public Library. I also manage our zine collection here. We're one of I think 8 branches that have zine collections across LAPL. I'm here with Ziba, who manages the zine collection at Palisades and is the YA librarian there. And wanted to host this LA Skater Zine Workshop because here at West LA, we're right in front of the West LA Courthouse skate plaza and also around the corner from Stoner Park, which are 2 nationally famous, I say even world famous skate parks. And so we want to honor that culture here. And with that, I'll pass it off to Natalie.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Natalie Porter, my pronouns are she, her. I'm presenting from a small town north of Vancouver, Canada, where I live and skate with gratitude on the traditional territory of the Tla'amin First Nation. I'm going to share my screen so you've got some visuals. Let's start here. All right, can you see I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the website. So I think I've got about 250 skaters bios from as far back as like 1959. And I also feature like women-owned companies, videos, magazines, and zines. And I kind of do a little post every once a week or so on all different topics, different decades. And then I kind of highlight, put them in the appropriate decade because I'm a librarian and I'm nerdy. But not all of these skaters are like pro skaters. There's some really interesting people. I'll just pick Debbie Bennett. She was actually a skateboarding advocate in Los Angeles. And she kind of said like, hey, let's legalize skateboarding. Not all the kids can afford to go to these privately owned skate parks. And yeah, she was a really influential person. Yeah, so I have a lot of fun with digging up interesting stories and really like validating these older women. I'll also show you, my Instagram account. So yeah, this is just, oh, there we go. I pop up a little story every once in a while, and it's just really fun to get some feedback from the public. Some supporters like Kevin Marks from the Look Back Library will like help me out if I'm looking for an old magazine.
Gmail, we're seeing the Gmail screen instead of Instagram.
Oh, that's dang. I'm going to. Okay, let's pick the right one. Here we go.
There we go.
Awesome. Yeah, this is the Instagram account. You can follow along, and yeah, I get a lot of fun feedback here. Yeah, people who are super supportive, and yeah, so that's kind of the behind the scenes work that I'm doing. I've been skateboarding since 1995, and I've just been collecting zines and resources about women skaters for over 20 years. Yeah, again, I think it's just important to validate older women from past decades who are, ignored or their stories were buried. Like I've interviewed the national champions from the 70s from like Canada, Mexico, Holland. Like no one has bothered to reach out to them. So I think it's just important to have like this historical context when a lot of skateboarding media is male dominated. And today we have like 14-year-old girls winning the Olympics, but like they haven't appeared out of nowhere. There's been a long history of activism and protest to ensure opportunities like contests and better representation in the media, equal contest pay, which I like to celebrate. Yeah, because women have always participated in skateboarding since it gained mass popularity in the 1960s. But while the 60s and 70s were relatively supportive of girls' participation, there was a rebranding of skateboarding in the 80s, kind of like as an exclusive domain for prepubescent boys. There's a lot of intense marketing towards them. That kind of meant that women were alienated and dismissed as like posers or frauds. So there's kind of this myth that like, oh, the 80s and 90s, it was, too punk, too hardcore for women to pursue. And it justified an almost near blackout of female skaters in magazines like Thrasher and Trans World. Even though like in the 70s, women were just ripping in pools and bowls, they had sponsors, there was like multiple age categories for girls in contests, but it's like those women never existed. And now I'm gonna just open up my PowerPoint. 1 second here. All right, thumbs up.
Audience members. So welcome to our 3 new audience members. Thank you.
Oh, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so fortunately, like female skaters are pretty resourceful. We created, you know, underground clubs, girl gangs, contests, videos, and zines. And like with the zine, you don't have to have like get the approval of a male magazine editor. And I can confidently state, because of zines, that like female and non-binary skaters of the 80s and 90s were like, I think they were too hardcore and too badass for the industry to accept. Not like the other way around. And zines are my greatest resource because contained within these grainy pages are stories of dissent. There's like photos, drawings, interviews, activism, like demanding the return of contests for girls in 1981. They were eliminated by the Association of Skate Park Owners. So they did a lot of activism there. And I'm going to run through some of my favorite zines. Here we've got JDs, or Juvenile Delinquents. It was launched in 1985 by GB Jones, Bruce LaBruce, and the New Lavender Panthers. And the focus is on like celebrating the queercore movement in Toronto. But Jones and her band Fifth Column were skaters. You can see them there on the left. And the zine included all these drawings of skateboarding tom girls. It's like a Tom of Finland style. And they revered like these skateboarding actresses, Jodie Foster and Christy McNichol, as kind of like queer skating icons. And I think it's important to start with the zine because it's a reminder that in the 1980s, the queer community was often dependent on underground newsletters like zines because there was so much stigma and homophobia because of the AIDS epidemic. And mainstream news didn't represent their stories. So they created zines. Next up, I've got Ladies Skate World, 1986 to 1987. This is possibly the first zine written by and for female skaters by Lori Cooley Wong, who's of Chinese Hawaiian descent. And Lori worked at the Del Mar Skate Ranch. She's also the lead singer of Death Roster punk band, rode motorcycles, and advocated for a separate contest for girls. And Lori Wong understood that for women to embrace and progress in skateboarding, they needed to see themselves in media and form community. So Lori and her friend Laura Medlock started the Women's Skateboard Club, and they used this zine to kind of advertise their efforts. And another fun fact about Lori Wong is that she was the tenant of Tony Hawk when Tony Hawk bought his very first house as a teenager, and he actually needed his friends to help him pay his mortgage. So another cool thing about this zine writer. All right, next up, Push, Push, Then Go is by KZ Zapata and also published in 1986. It is not like exclusively about women skaters, but KZ always included the girls scene column, and it had like trick tips, and it really encouraged girl skaters. And KZ was so cool. They played drums in a band called PMS, often the lone female skater in contests. They appeared in Thrasher Mag a couple times, and they were sponsored by a major company called SMA, which is Santa Monica Airlines. And Zapata like really spoke out against always being compared to the guys and kind of dismissed as irrelevant. And I was really fortunate because I got to interview them for another zine, which is a contemporary zine called Double Down. Super cool. And then Bonnie Bluin, who's just on the right over here, she became the first female columnist for Thrasher magazine. And she shared a lot of similar views as Zapata. So the two became pen pals. You know, this is before cell phones, social media, the internet. So it's all about writing letters. And Bluin was really isolated on the East Coast, but was super active in the zine scene. She wrote True Devotion with her punk friend, Gigi Gitz. That's her, Boneless. And then Bluin, she wrote this really game-changing article for Thrasher called Sugar and Spice. It was in April 1986. And she positioned herself as like a key player in this women's movement. And there's a quote, you probably can't quite read it, but it said, her vision was to see through the formation of a nationwide nonprofit girls skate club, a directory of names and addresses, a video and contest. And in 1988, like this is exactly what happened. So yeah, she put it out there, her hopes and dreams, she created her zine, and yeah, people got in touch and made it happen. Lynn Kramer, who still skates today, launched her zine. At first it was called Girls Who Grind in 1988, but then they changed it to Equal Time for the next 3 issues. And so Lynn expanded on that women's skateboard club, and it called themselves the Women's Skateboard Network. And they ended up having 250 members from around the world by 1982. And there was also an all-female video that came out called Skaters by Ethan Fox. It was the first of its kind. And Lynn organized the first all-girl skateboard contest in 1989. And it's exactly how Bonnie Bluin had imagined. And it's thanks to Equal Time Zine that I have all these photos and stories of some of the most like influential female skaters from the 80s. You can see on the cover here, this is Stephanie Person, and she was the first Black female professional skater. In the middle, we've got Christy Jordal. She was sponsored by World Industries. And, you know, back in 1988, it's pretty badass to be skating a handrail. It was actually in a contest called Street Life in San Diego. And in the zine, Lynn Kramer, she reported on the contest, and they'd gone to all this effort to get a girls division. And then the guys went and skated during the girls contest run. It was like, oh my gosh, this, yeah, pretty brutal. But they persevered, and there was like, yeah, 250 members. And here's just a photo of some of them gathering together. I was actually really lucky because there was one woman from New Zealand who still owned like the whole mailing list, the pen pal mailing list from the 80s, and scanned it for me. And like, obviously the addresses have changed, but there's some like really interesting women on this list, like Carabeth Burnside, Sasha Clark, Anita Tessenson, you know, women who are in the Skateboarding Hall of Fame. Yeah, so it was looking like, you know, end of the 80s, early 90s, things were happening. But then there was actually a recession in the early 90s. And it kind of felt like all this momentum kind of lost its momentum. And the scene kind of took a turn. It kind of became a bit toxic. There was some homophobia, racism, sexism. There was some pretty like violent portrayal of women in magazine ads and board graphics. And a lot of these skaters, they actually, you know, took up snowboarding. It was a bit more of a welcoming community. And I would say there's a lot of parallels between like the punk scene and skateboarding scene at this time. And just like, you know, the Riot Girls, they created their own zines and network, and so did female skaters. So right here, we've got Ramdasha Bixine. Ramdasha was a Black punk musician, part of a skater girl gang and band named Gunk. And Ramdasha wrote this fantastic letter to Thrasher in 1991, expressing their frustration with like the alienation of female skaters. And she vowed to say, like, she created her own magazine, and that became Gunk, the zine. So in the zine, Ramdasha was also like, you know, celebrating other Riot Girls who were skateboarders. There was some known sponsored women that she featured, like Lori Rigsby, who was sponsored by Pal Peralta. And it was pretty cool. Down at the bottom, that's a photo of Ramdasha at the very first Riot Girl convention in Washington, D.C. in 1992. So you can go to the website, and there's some footage of them on the archive there. But then, yeah, in September 1997, the first all-girl skate jam was launched in San Diego by Patty Segovia. And Patty had actually been a member of that women's skateboard network in the 80s and subscribed to Equal Time Zine. And yeah, she launched the contest, and it was reported on in another zine called Villa Villa Cola. And you can see the two twin sisters in the middle, Tiffany and Nicole Morgan. So they formed this girl gang, and they're such a creative group of people. Like they went on to produce all girls videos like Getting Nowhere Faster in 2004. And that was thanks to actually a woman I deeply respect, Lisa Whitaker, Actually, she owns Meow Skateboards, if you can see my t-shirt. So she created like a website called the Side Project, which became the Girls Skate Network. And it's thanks to Lisa that, you know, pro skaters like Vanessa Torres and Amy Caron, like they were documented and received some media attention and fans. Villa Villacola was like, yeah, super funny. There was recipes, there was horoscopes, there was like road trip stories, lots of artwork. And it also inspired other zine makers and skaters. So this is one that I actually just featured. I was in New York and I got to look at this zine firsthand. It's super cool. It's by Zana from Portland, 50-50 skate zine, skateboarding and gender. And Zana was responding. There was kind of a sort of a sexist letter written to Thrasher condemning this all-girls company called Rookie Skateboards. And in the zine, so she kind of talks about that letter and sort of the battles she faced skating. There's a park, a DIY park called Burnside. And in the late 1990s, there was like, I know, some pretty toxic graffiti and some pornography. And so she really wanted to create a safe space for female skaters. Yeah, and there's this one page, you can see it on the left, that really like spoke to me. She wrote, like, this is 1999, like wondering where the documentation on the history of women in skateboarding existed, like just kind of at a loss. And yeah, so it's really motivating me to like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna, you know, keep going with this archive just to ensure like that future generations have a better sense of context and who was, you know, championing their cause, like, you know, 20, 50, 60 years ago. So yeah, that was kind of fun to kind of read that. Here's just a few more zines. Oh, there's so many zines. I love them. And I just, you know, actually Villa Villacola was the first zine that I ever owned. And it inspired my own girl gang up in Vancouver. You know, we kind of felt less alone. And I just see a direct correlation between the impact of zines as community builders, because it, you know, it reminds women and non-binary skaters, like, we're not alone. You know, you have value, you deserve to claim space as a skateboarder. Yeah, so zines can do that. And she'll just stop sharing. I'll do a little, there's Jeff. I'll do a little show and tell of some zines that I contributed to. So in the early 2000s, I was living in Montreal and we had a girl gang called the Skirtboarders. And it's really cold there in the winter. So we made all these issues. We're calling it Armpit Zine, if you can see that, some of the crew. And we also created some videos, and it's just so fun. There's like contest reports, skate park reviews, lots of photos. And then back in Vancouver in 2009, my friend Michelle Pizzelle, she owns Antisocial Skate Shop. She got a bunch of us together at the skate shop and we cut and paste the zine called Idlewood. And I think we ended up doing 6 issues and they're massive. A lot of us rode motorcycles because to access the skate parks around Vancouver, it's just easier riding motorbikes. So there's some really fun road trips. And in that Idlewood zine, I actually had a skateboarding history column. So that's kind of where I really started gathering all my resources together. It's just such a fun outlet. And I just, like, I really encourage you to have fun with zines. It doesn't have to be like strictly about skateboarding. You know, it can be whatever interests you. Use it as an outlet to rant or whatever's frustrating you. And make sure you don't keep it to yourself. Like, make copies, share it with others, because, you know, you'll find a whole community of zine makers and some interesting friends if you start swapping zines. But also remember to keep a copy for yourself, because you never know, in the future there could be a historian who needs some information, like a tactile copy of, you know, what it was like today. You know, we've got social media, but it's, you know, it's fleeting. So I really advocate for a print tactile copy. Actually, and speaking of print, I've got a book coming out in 1 year. It's called Girl Gangs, Zines, and Power Slides, A History of Badass Women Skateboarders. So that's fall 2025. And yeah, it'll be full of rants, full of stories, and kind of the back end story of making the archive. And yeah, definitely like an emphasis on zines. yeah, I was just wondering, yeah, if there's any questions or you want to see anything else, I've got so many zines. You can go to the website and there's a tab where I've digitized a lot of them with mostly with permission, and you can check them out there too if you need some inspiration for your workshop today. Yeah, that was me. Any questions?
I have a question. So you're a librarian for all ages or a specific age group? And do you do like skateboarding programs with the age group? Like, how do you bring skateboarding into the library?
Well, actually, I'm was in a physical library for 17 years. I worked as a public librarian in Vancouver, and I was actually working in the downtown east side. It's a branch called Carnegie. And I wouldn't say we had all ages. It was mostly homeless men, people who struggle with addictions. So I didn't host workshops on zine workshops, but I'm now working as a professional development coordinator for the British Columbia Library Association. So I've just got this new contract. So I'm remote. I'm a remote library worker, which is kind of wild right now. But it gives me a lot of time to also do my research for my skateboard archive. Yes, I'm no longer in a physical library.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other question? Even anyone on Zoom have a question, or anyone on Instagram have a question, or either of you? Okay, I have another question then. How did you come up with publishing a book? So making zines is good, and then how do you go about publishing a book after publishing zines?
Yeah, it was it was a frustrating process because like I've always, as a skateboarder, I think we're pretty DIY. Like we just, yeah, do it ourselves, create zines, create our own skate parks. And so I kind of tried to do it traditionally where you get like a literary agent and then the agent submits your manuscript to publishers. But like no one was biting the bait. But one of my friends, Cole Nowicki, he just wrote a book on Tony Hawk, um, on the video game, and his publisher ECW Press. I was like, oh, they're receptive to skateboarding, and they said that they didn't need, like, they accept unsolicited manuscripts, which means you don't have to have like a middle person, like an agent. So I submitted it, and they liked it, and kind of have gone from there. But it's like so wild. It's a 2-year process of editing and sending drafts and back and forth with the editor. So I'm really learning a lot because yeah, it's a long process. So yeah, it's been 2 years of this sort of back and forth, but it is a small Canadian independent press. So it's not like a big name publisher, but I'm hoping people will be interested in it. I've interviewed a lot of fascinating women and non-binary skaters too, and yeah, hopefully people will check it out.
Thank you. Any questions, anyone? Any questions? Because okay, I have another question then. How did you hear about the Zine Librarians Unconference in New York? Because that's how I heard about you. So I wonder, how did you hear about that? And have you presented there before, or?
Yeah, that was my first time, because I'm not like a traditional zine librarian, like collecting for a library collection. But I think I was just like, yeah, I was looking around to see what else was published on the topic, and just to see who was passionate about it. Yeah, it was kind of a random stumbling upon it. It looked just super cool, like an unconference, very like casual and cool. And I wanted to be in New York, so I needed an excuse. And yeah, that was my first time presenting. Yeah, it was really, really neat to see such passionate librarians get together, and yeah, my people. It was really fun.
Okay, so I'll keep asking questions. So what age did you start? I think you might have said, what age did you start skating? And did you use skateboarding like as a mode of transportation? And do you still?
Yeah, so I was 17. 1995. I lived in Ontario, and I was more into snowboarding because, yeah, we had some pretty intense winters. And just like a lot of my buddies in the off season summer were skateboarding, and my older brothers were as well. So like, oh, I'll poach my brother's old board. And yeah, we didn't have a park nearby, so I had to drive to the local skate park. Yeah, and I skated pretty consistently until I was like 29, 30, and then took a break. And then I'm in this small town, and there's actually a really fantastic skate park here. It's got like this like snake run and a bowl and little tiny street park. And I saw some girls like practicing how to ollie, and I was like, ah, dang it, like I should get back into it. So yeah, at age 42, I got back into it, and like, oh my God, back spasms and so much pain. Yeah, I just been pretty consistent about getting back into it. And oh my gosh, like there's so many cool older women, and they're like organizing meetups and groups and really motivating each other to keep skating. And I think tons of inspiration online that I can find to like, oh, I'm not alone. And actually last year, because of the website, a woman locally who lives here part-time, who's 48, she found my website, and we started skating together. So now I have another like geriatric buddy to go with, and it's kind of motivating, pretty fun. Yeah, once a year I'll land a kickflip, and it'll just be like the best day ever.
Okay, and my last question then, unless anyone else has questions, but so I see a lot of skate park people, like even just right now walking up here, videotaping themselves skating and like doing tricks and stuff. Like, do you do that, or have you done that? And if so, are they online anywhere?
I think that might be the coy librarian in me. Like I don't really film myself. Um, maybe I could. I think I get distracted and frustrated. Like if you just focus on one trick over and over because you want to film it. I don't know. I just like enjoy the skate park, and if it happens, it happens. But I'm not like yeah, diligently recording myself. It's but I'm stoked when other people do, and I can watch them and their progress, and then go out and skate and be excited. But yeah, that's not really my calling to but I think it's fabulous when people do. But maybe if I was like trying to get sponsored when I was 18, there may be a couple videos that I'm in from like 2002, but they're like on VHS and buried away. But yeah, it's not my comfort zone. But yeah, maybe I should try.
There's probably pictures of you in zines.
Yeah, like in Armpit Zine, there's a couple photos in there. But yeah, it's just out there to skate and have fun.
Oh, thank you. So then, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I have one question, which was, is there, like, also, I guess, as a, like, librarian and researcher, is there a topic that, like, I'm curious, like, what, if there's a particular topic that was, like, kind of, like, the hardest to research or to uncover, like, within, yeah, your area.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes it's tricky, like with the older generation of women, like their names change and marriage. And sometimes that's like it's tricky to track them down. A lot of them are on Facebook, seem to like that platform a lot. And on occasion, a person's pronouns might change. And yeah, so I have to be like sort of attentive to that. One of my like greatest battles, things that I'm most proud of, there was like I heard that there was video footage of this Maori indigenous skateboarder in New Zealand named Georgina Matthews. And a university had this TV show in their archive, but they wouldn't loan it to me. And I was so frustrated because like, there's barriers to getting access to this content. But I was super lucky because I went on LinkedIn and I found all this staff from the library in New Zealand. And I just wrote to them and like, as a fellow librarian, like, you should help me. And this one guy who's also Maori, is also a skateboarder and a librarian. And he gave me some inside scoop on how I could get this footage. And we ended up tracking down this TV production company that was totally defunct because the footage was from like 2002. And I managed to track down this woman who gave me permission. So he was able to send me the footage. It was crazy. It was like this, super, I don't know, I felt like an investigative journalist or something, but I used my my connections as a librarian, and there's actually a few skateboarding librarians. There's one in Seattle who works in the Zine collection in Seattle, and he sent me some really cool stuff. Like in the 80s, there was a punk girl gang called Skate Betties in Alaska, in Anchorage, Alaska, and they were featured in the Zine. And so he like saw that and he's like, oh my gosh, I got to send this to Natalie. So I'm kind of stoked, like I'm getting known in different libraries and people are kind of looking out for cool stuff for me. Yeah, it's kind of snowballing and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. It's a good side project.
We just had a few more folks join us. Do you want to reintroduce yourself and see, I don't know if any of y'all have questions for Natalie off the cuff.
Yeah, reintroduce myself. Yeah, Natalie Porter, she, her. I'm up in Vancouver, well, north of Vancouver, Canada. Founded an archive called the Women's Skate History Archive. And I'm a librarian and I'm obsessed with zines. I've been contributing to a couple since like early 2000s and collecting a lot. Been digitizing some on the website, and there's an Instagram account called Women's Skate History where I'll post my findings and little bios, and I don't know, it's so fun too. Like I remember one time I posted this woman, this skater in the 70s, and a woman wrote, "That's my mom," and I just got to write back like, "Your mom's a fucking badass." Like it just like really validate these women, because like a lot of them, yeah, they didn't get interviewed back in the day, so like I'll track them down and have a good chat and yeah, get that firsthand story. Yeah, it's been a blast. And actually, the Skateboarding Hall of Fame has been picking up some of the bios and kind of linking them to their site. And I even got to record some there's a ceremony every year for the Skateboard Hall of Fame, and there's some really cool women from the 80s that were inducted, and made little videos for them. And so it's just turning into a really cool outlet and having fun. Yeah, Phil, looks like you're about ready to get into some zine making, and I wouldn't mind going to skateboard this afternoon, so it's been fun.
So,
Yeah.
thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
Natalie.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, and shout out to Jeff. I see you there lounging on the couch. Good to see you. Awesome. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Natalie.
Take care, Jeff.
You too. Bye-bye.
And then now I'm gonna present real quick. I'm Ziba, a zine librarian at Palisades. So I brought some zines from the Palisades branch library collection, and a little bit about me. I also started a zine collection at Baldwin Hills branch. So here's Baldwin Hills Zine Fest I helped put together, and some outreach with the library. And before Los Angeles Public Library, I helped start a zine collection circulating at Long Beach Public Library. And also I started at the OC Public Library System in Costa Mesa back 10 years ago, trying to get zines in the OC Public Library. But at the time they didn't want to circulate zines. So I went to Long Beach, but I showed them that a lot of people have zines, such as San Francisco Public Library. They have zines in the archives and special collections, and they collect zines from local San Francisco makers, zine makers. And you can find them now all over. So City of Anaheim Public Library, they have a circulating zine collection. We do here in LA. This is a picture from Baldwin Hills, but we have 8 locations all over LA, including here at West LA Regional Branch. And so Altadena Public Library has a collection, and San Diego Public Library, but theirs doesn't circulate. It's on the 8th floor. They have like an archive of zines. New York Public Library says that it's important to document contemporary popular culture. They're an important primary source material, and they're a lot of fun. So they have them. And I was inspired by Salt Lake City Public Library when I went there on spring break. I saw they had a zine collection, and they said it was the largest circulating zine collection west of the Mississippi, and it was 3,000 circulating zines in the public library. And that was over 10 years ago. And here's a little workshop from their homepage where they're talking about a really cool Valentine's mini comic zine making workshop. It says, we'll help you tell your story, whether romantic or rotten. We'll provide the zines, you bring the story. And so academic libraries have zines. So here's a screenshot of Michigan State Library, and they're collecting more like science fiction or from the 60s. But now, UC Irvine, UCLA, UC Santa Barbara started a social justice zine collection. University of San Francisco, USC, all over, we can find zines everywhere. So even when you travel, I got some in Cuba, but they're more like art books, cartoneros. And then the Multnomah County Public Library, that's a zine librarian. They have zines also inspired from Salt Lake City Public Library, but they only collect zines that you won't find the subject in a book. So before there were vegan cookbooks, they would collect vegan cook zines. So that's how they would make their little collection. And here's the Librarian of Congress in DC looking at the zine pavilion where we're exhibiting zines. So you can find them also in the Library of Congress. And here's a screenshot from Barnard Zine Collection where the zine librarian Jenna Friedman, so they're only collecting zines specifically from people who identify as female or did when the zine was published, or by people of all genders writing about their femme identity. So each collection could be a specific type of zine collection. And even Harvard had a donation of zines, many zines from the 80s and 90s before the internet existed. They had 20,000 zines and related materials donated so the students can look at popular culture in the 80s and 90s, sort of like how now we have all the social media, but before that you could have the zines would show you what was popular. And then myself, I do a zine called Zebra Radar Zine since 2012 at the first LA Zine Fest. I tabled with my friends. We called it Three Amigos Press since it was 3 friends from high school. And I just do more scrapbooking collage style. So here's an example of a page. And here's the first LA Zine Fest in downtown LA. It was at the Last Bookstore and upstairs, and it was very crowded, and they had KXLU DJ, but it was a nice setup with my friends. I brought some zebras. And then San Diego has a Zine Fest also since way back over 10 years ago, and they're still going on every year. San Diego Zine Fest, it's more of like a 2-day Zine Fest, and it's really fun to go. Oh, here's a picture of the Salt Lake City Public Library zine collection, and they have a little printed out zine catalog. So they have the log lady, and they have the log lady holding a cat. So it's a zine catalog. So it's like a fun, and then they put them in boxes based on the title. So they're all right in the adult section close to the graphic novel. So it's really fun to see how other collections display their zines. This was when I was in the OC Weekly trying to get zines in the Costa Mesa Public Library. And OC Zine Fest started back in 2014, 10 years ago. And it's actually right now happening today. Today, Saturday, at the Anaheim Public Library is OC Zine Fest 10 years later, 2024. And Long Beach Zine Fest. Long Beach is my hometown. They were inspired to do the first one in 2015, but now it's on hiatus. And I helped organize Long Beach Zine Fest 4 years. And here's the Long Beach Public Library zine collection I helped start when it first started in 2015. And UCI, that's where I went to my undergrad and worked in libraries for the first time. So I helped them with Zine Fest. And here's the Long Beach Public Library zine collection and more Long Beach Public Library. And here's how we did outreach with Long Beach Public Library at Long Beach Zine Fest 2016. And I got to buy zines for the collection all over. This was the Portland Zine Symposium. And here's a Zine Fest at the Long Beach Public Library way back, I think 2016. And then we did outreach with our zines, like on 4th Street, Retro Row. And we had workshops with sewing machines. And now LA Public Library has zines since 2017. We have our website, lapl.org/zines, and you could check them out with your library card. Any of the zines you see with the barcode up front here, you can take home, also downstairs, so if you want to check them out with your library card. And I started it during International Zine Month, July 2017 at Baldwin Hills branch, and I just had a display up saying, let's make a zine, and I let patrons know what zines were, and here's some examples of the patrons making, or library users making zines. And here's a substitute librarian that happens to be the sister of Otis Redding. So I had a picture of the brother and sister in zine format. It's an Otis Redding zine. From Razor Cake Magazine, they have a website with free zines you could download PDF format, so we downloaded some. Joshua Tree Zine Fest was in the desert, like a pop-up zine fest in 2018. I got some zines for the library. And then here's our city librarian, John Zabo, that is really supportive of zines in the library. And so the three of us kind of started the whole zine collection. This is Angie, a senior librarian at Special Collections, and Yago, an adult librarian at Hyde Park. That's me, and we were at LA Zine Fest 2018 in Pasadena checking out zines. We went to the Zine Librarians Unconference in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Also, Lorena, another founding zine librarian at Cypress Park branch with the zine library there. And we learned from best practices from other zine libraries of how to circulate zines best at LA Public Library. And here's a library user that wanted to add their zines to our collection. They did poetry, so we added them to the collection. And then we were at LA Zine Fest in 2019. That was in Culver City. And then in 2019 at the American Library Association, there's always a zine pavilion, and they help get libraries around the nation to know about zines and have zines in their library. And during the quarantine, we would make quarantines through Zoom and collaborative zine workshops through Zoom. And this is the Los Angeles Public Library Koreatown branch. They were doing an oral history students and elders from the garment district, and they were making some tribute zines. And I made an example tribute zine of my grandma. So I made this one, like I interviewed my dad about my grandma. And so I just took the notes and taped it down to pictures I printed out of my grandma, who also was a garment worker in Iran. And so that's my tribute zine. And at UCLA, there's a punk professor that does a punk cast, and they would come to our zine club. And so we were interviewed, Lorena, Yago, and I, in one of their 2022 episodes about Zine Club, which Zine Club on Zoom, we host every month or twice a month. And here's a screenshot from Zine Club with Sarah Bennett, who's a professor at Santa Ana Community College and big zine maker and a founder of Long Beach Zine Fest. And a zine librarian from Oakland Public Library, also a zine maker. So just letting you know, zines are everywhere. Go to Zine Fest and learn about zines from everywhere. Here's LA Public Library. At a high school, we did a zine workshop at Dorsey High School. And then here's Central Library, LA Libros Fest Family Bilingual Zine Workshop. And then Baldwin Hills Zine Fest we did in 2022. And we had our artist in resident make a library zine. And that's when they debuted their zine, was at the Baldwin Hills Zine Fest. And here's John Dishwasher, a big zine maker. And lots of zine clubs with zine makers talking about zines. And there was a zine fest in called No Border Zine Fest in Venice that happened at Beyond Baroque, and that was by Errant Press, and they're really good also distributors of zines. So yeah, in conclusion, zines, thank you. Yeah. So now let's make zines.
I realized I left the templates of the zines downstairs, so I'm gonna run and grab them. Oh, there's some paper here though, so I just wanna grab if you want